Wuthering Waves is the newest free-to-play open-world action RPG developed by Kuro Games. If Kuro Games sounds a little familiar to you, they are best known for Punishing Gray Raven, another high-paced action game. Their newest game has finally fully released and is available for everyone to play it right now. The question is, will Wuthering Waves be able to stand out in a market already saturated with different types of gacha games? Well, let's see what the game does well and what it could improve upon. In Wuthering Waves, you take on the role of a mysterious newcomer simply known as the Rover, who wakes up with no memory of who they are and how they arrived in this strange world called Solaris 3. In this world, humanity is under constant attack by creatures known as tacit discords, which are sentient beings formed from the chaotic frequencies found in the world. The people who are the best at fighting these creatures are known as resonators. These individuals all have special abilities and are able to control and manipulate the frequencies of certain objects to combat the tacit discord threat. Due to the circumstances of your arrival, the different factions, all with their own agendas, end up keeping you closely monitored. And gradually, as you connect with the world around you, the secrets behind your past and the world reveal themselves. The story of Wuthering Waves itself is both gripping and filled with intrigue, and you also meet a lot of interesting characters along the way. But one of our qualms about it is that the beginning of the game is quite a slog to go through. The intro has way too many exposition dumps and long conversations, with some of them actually being unskippable. New players of the game might even consider this information overload. I mean, okay, just after your character wakes up and you're already given all these strange terms like resonators, tacit marks, and tacit fields, all in the first 10 minutes of the game.
You must be a resonator too. You've got a tacit mark on the back of your hand, and you have a gourd. This is proof you're a resonator.
Like, please, my character has amnesia and you just casually drop all these strange words and expect us to understand them? The intro of the game could have really applied the show don't tell type of narrative, as well as sprinkled in more gameplay rather than just having minutes-long conversations explaining the current events happening in the game. Although the beginning may seem like a chore and a bore to go through, which is quite a shame that we had to drag ourselves through this slow intro to get there, the story does pick up after you are introduced to the major factions of the world, which leads us to the best part about the game: its gameplay. Now, we all know what some people are saying. Doesn't this game look a little bit too similar to another popular open world gacha game called, I don't know, Genshin Impact? I mean, the UIs look very similar, and the way the characters look also feels quite the same. Can one pass this off as just another Genshin clone? Well, after playing quite a bit of it, we can say that this game does have its own unique identity and actually has a lot of interesting things to offer. While it does share many similarities to Genshin, the thing that truly sets it apart is its very fast-paced and skill-based gameplay, which involves a lot of dodging and parrying. Yes, you can parry in this game to defeat the many foes you come across. Similarly to Kuro Games' previous work, Punishing Gray Raven, Wuthering Waves gameplay has a heavy emphasis on timing your strikes and knowing when to counter. This makes for a very satisfying back and forth, especially when going up against the many bosses you fight throughout the game. The best way to describe the combat is that it feels like a lighter version of the combat found in games like the Devil May Cry and the Nier series. Which is quite funny, as there is a meme reference to Devil May Cry found in the game. I wonder what this chair is a reference to. Wait a minute. Even a lot of the playable characters' movesets do feel like they take a lot of inspiration from the series we talked about. And speaking of playable characters, the game features many resonators for you to play as, each with their own unique movesets and abilities. You have amazing DPS characters like Calchero, who does insane looking combos all while dishing out some big damage, or you can also have characters like Farina, who provide much needed heals to the rest of your team. There are a lot of characters in this launch alone that you can have on your team, although a big thing to know is that this is a free-to-play gacha game. So the only way to get the characters you want is, well, to roll for them in the game's gacha. No need to fret though, as the gacha here does seem to be a lot more generous, as the amount of pulls needed to reach pity is a bit lower compared to other gacha games. That's not even including all the free pulls you get from just starting out. So it is guaranteed that you will get a good 5-star character and weapon in no time. As of writing this too, Kuro Games has given players a choice ticket for them to choose any of the 5 stars found in the standard banners. Talk about being generous. But don't be too sad if you don't get the characters you want, since the game really focuses on your skill rather than having a broken character who can just breeze through the game. As we played, we noticed that a lot of the lower rarity characters are still viable in the early to late game. We've had characters like Danjin and Sanhua in our team most of the time, as they perform just as well as the rarer 5-star characters once you get their mechanics down. Another thing you can use to gain an upper hand in battle is by equipping the right echoes for the characters. Echoes are the game's version of the artifact system found in games like Genshin Impact, but unlike the other games, you can obtain these by just exploring the world instead of spending your in-game stamina to farm them. Enemies you fight as you explore will have a chance to drop echoes of themselves, which you can use to make your characters more powerful. Each of the echoes you obtain all have different stats and substats that will boost the abilities and stats of the characters you equip the echoes on. There are multiple sets of echoes that also gain more buffs when you equip 5 of the same echo sets. And it's not limited to normal mobs too, as bosses also have a chance to drop their echoes. Another great thing about these echoes is that each of them all have their own abilities that you can activate to help you in combat. Some make you transform into the said echo you have equipped to deal some damage to enemies, while some are summoned beside your character and supports them either by healing or giving you buffs. You can even turn into a giant dancing turtle that can heal your party. Just look at it dance! All this makes hunting for echoes a fun minigame on its own, as trying to find the best echoes to equip for your team is very rewarding. It also feels like we're playing Pokemon, where we try to find the best echoes out there in the world. Did we mention there are also shiny echoes? Anyway, exploring and hunting for echoes are also made easy with the game's many ways of traversing through the world. Your character has many traversal options available to them to make exploring the world easier and fun. Sprinting does not consume stamina, which makes getting from point A to point B less of a hassle. You can even climb walls, which do require stamina, but if that is too slow for you, you can run up the walls! Yup, just casually parkour up the wall. Well, that is until you run out of stamina, that is. You also have access to a glider, which is becoming quite the standard in these new open world games today. Aside from the glider, your character also has access to a grappling hook, which makes clearing small gaps easier. You are able to use the grappling hook at any time to gain a small boost in height, and there are a few grappling points found around the world that can help with the traversal of large areas. There are even quite a few parkour challenges found littered throughout the world that can test your skill in these traversal mechanics. Speaking of challenges, the world of Wuthering Waves has quite a lot of side activities that can keep you engaged. There are the usual treasure hunts where you find the chests scattered throughout the world, but there are also different kinds of puzzles that require a bit of thinking to complete. All these are spaced out very well, and pairing those with the many enemy encounters you will come across, you probably won't get bored exploring this rich world. Once you have leveled up and gotten yourself a good team, you can also try your hand in the game's endgame content called the Tower of Adversity. Here, you will go through different levels, each with difficult groups of enemies to defeat. It is here where you can really apply all the knowledge you've learned while playing through the game. Aside from all the things we talked about, since the game is an ongoing gacha game, of course there will be a lot of different types of events to keep players coming back. The roadmap of the 1.0 events have already been posted, and it's looking to be quite an interesting set of events. The parkour event looks very intriguing given how good the traversal mechanics are so far in the game. All in all, Wuthering Waves does have a lot in store, and hopefully it builds upon the already excellent mechanics in future updates. One look at the visuals of Wuthering Waves and you can tell that the devs really spent a lot of time making the world and the characters look good. The character designs of each Resonators look all very distinct and unique. The way they dress and the way they act is so eye-catching that you just want to get more of it. A great example of these are the designs of characters like Kalchara and Baiji. Kalchara even looks like Sephiroth but with a mark on his forehead. It's also funny that his Japanese voice actor is also the same as Sephiroth's voice actor. They had to do that on purpose. Then we have Baiji, one of the first characters you meet. She has the aura and the look of someone who takes her job very seriously. But I don't know why, but there seems to be something off about her idol animation. Wait, what were we talking about? Aside from the playable characters, some of the NPCs found in the town area of the game also seem to have a lot of thought put into them. I mean, just look at this NPC! You mean to tell me that he isn't a playable character and just serves as a random NPC to talk to? The world also feels alive as you often see NPCs patrolling and engaging with the enemies out in the field. Great character design is not the only thing the visuals do well, as even the environment looks very well thought out too. The world may look a bit drab and filled with despair, but that is to be expected when you live in a place where conflict is at every corner. It's in these environments that makes you wonder how it was before everything was broken up by the conflict happening in the world. The visuals for the combat also stand out as they are flashy but not too flashy to be distracting. The way each attack of the enemies are telegraphed as well as the visual cues for them makes everything easy on the eyes, especially during the very intense combat sections. The visual feedback for pairing and the skills all sound like they pack quite a punch and make fighting different enemies a rush of amazing visuals and style. This is not limited to the visuals too, as the sound design is great at making these combat encounters feel weighty and impactful. One thing to note though is that the game may need a bit more time to be optimized. When we played, we experienced random frame drops as well as models just popping in and out in the distance. It's such a shame because it really takes away from the immersive experience from exploring this world that has so much to offer. There were also times when the text of dialogue would cut out and not fit in the text boxes. That's not to mention quite a few typos found throughout the game. Another complaint we have is that the English voice acting could use a bit more attention. The voice actors for these seem to sound like they're just reading off a script and don't really sound like they're putting their all into their roles.
Echoes are the lingering reverberations of tacit discords after they disintegrate. We can absorb them into the databanks in our Pangu terminals.
Aside from those, we don't really have too many complaints on the game's overall aesthetic, as the world and the gameplay are interesting enough to keep us fully engaged in the game. As for its version 1.0, we're giving Wuthering Waves a 7.6 out of 10. If you can get past the very slow intro and quite a few bugs that it has, the game is one of the better open world action games this year. Since Wuthering Waves will be constantly updated, we hope that they fix some of the glaring issues found in the 1.0 release. Seeing as Kuro Games have been hard at work updating their community and giving us tons of compensation for it, like, that is just a free 5-star selector. We might do another review once the game has had a few months worth of content updates in the future. But how about you guys? How are you enjoying the game so far? Let us know in the comments below. That's all for now, and this is Game8 signing off.